Sometimes it's a problem that you encounter every day, and then some people just want to live with this problem. There are other type of people that want to solve this problem, right? I think that's the spirit of an entrepreneur, right? Try to solve problems, no matter where they are.
Alex, welcome to Tools, Talents, and Techniques. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you. Thank you for the inviting.
Yeah, of course. And you have such a unique story. It's a very cool story. And also, I know how talented you are. So being able to talk through your journey and how you develop these skills that you have and what makes you unique in the market and all the different amazing projects that you work on. I'm happy to learn more and to share with our audience. So can you just give a brief introduction on who you are and your company?
Right. So I'm Alex. I'm a CEO and lead designer of Deep Studio. We are a design consultancy from San Diego, California, and we've been in the market for almost 4 years. And what we do is basically entrepreneurs, they come with an idea and we develop the idea since the first sketch until the final production. So we can work with the entrepreneur in all the phases of the project development. But we also work with established companies that sometimes have a product in the market and they want to do like a new version or something more expensive or cheaper. It depends of the need. So it's a lot of fun because we work with open-minded people, like with already established companies and a lot of different things. So every day, a different case, a different product is a different challenge. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I want to dig into that because also, as I'm aware, there are major differences. Like working with an established company that has a larger budget, but they also have a lot more red tape, and they have a very specific thing that they're looking for and how you fit into their process. But then there's also other things where somebody like early on with the product development, it's a little more wide open. So there's more creativity, which has its own pluses and minuses. Before we dive into all that, I wanted to talk a little bit about your background because you, as someone coming from Brazil into the United States and building your career here, can you talk about a little bit about your early stages and your journey, your life in Brazil? Tell us about your origin story.
So my parents, they have like a kind of really different background. So my father is in marketing and my mom was more like in teaching. So she was a art school teacher. So I was since the beginning really kind of exposed to art and to how to work with the hands. And on my dad's side was more in marketing, more business, how to drive like revenue for companies and things like that. So I always liked to draw, to create things, to play with Lego. Lego was my kid's toy, and with my grandpa was a lot of learning how things work. That was in the beginning of my childhood. Like my grandpa was really into building things and fixing things. So I think I was exposed to these three different paths. And when I was like still in high school, I was trying to find what is the ideal career, right? And I did a lot of uh, crazy areas, different areas like civil engineering, mechanical engineering, graphic design, so a little bit of everything. And then that was when Apple launched the first iPhone in 2007. I was, okay, what is this? What is this area? Because industrial design it's not that popular as like a doctor's or lawyer degree, right? So it was interesting to know and to learn about this profession and how people in the industry they do what they do. So I feel like Apple had a really big impact in my like picking industrial design. And then I worked in industrial design for almost 15 years already. So like 10 years in Brazil. And the difference between Brazil and the US is like how easy is the connection with the US and the companies in China or in other countries, how global the US it is. So it's much easier for you to contact those manufacturers and go back and forth. And in 2018, I was still working in Brazil. We had another design studio over there. I was one of the partners, and we had a recession. And I was the only partner with just a bachelor's degree. So my goal was like, okay, so that's the perfect time to find and do my master's. So I started to look Europe or the US, and I kind of liked the California, the Silicon Valley, the startup type of environment. So then I came to the US. I did a couple interviews in universities to do my master's, and I found this university in San Francisco. And their partnerships with companies in the Silicon Valley was what made me choose university. So it was great because I was able to work with the best companies in the world in a pretty short amount of time, right? When I came to the US. And then I worked with Google, with Amazon, with these big companies like in 6 months. And in Brazil, it was really hard to reach like a high level company because we have like companies like Whirlpool or uh, like companies in the aerospace or furniture and things like that, but not the biggest ones. Like I was able to Google and Amazon, they're like the biggest in the world, right? So that made me choose like to stay in the US and pursue like opening the business.
So when you had this idea of what it was like to work in Silicon Valley and be in the startup community, what was the difference between what you thought it was going to be like versus what it was? If was there any difference at all? Was there anything that surprised you?
I think, wait for this,
Yeah, are you okay? Is that somebody coming for you?
I think there is like a firefighter thing around here.
Yeah, well, that's city life, man. That's city living.
Yeah. Good.
So the question that I posed is, you had this idea of like, oh, I really like the California lifestyle, the Silicon Valley, and working with these big companies. What matched your expectations and what didn't? What was your experience in going into that culture?
I think the main difference is like the fast pace. Like working in a design studio in Brazil and working in a design studio in California is like needs to be fast. It's like more pressure. It's really competitive. Like because imagine like a designer at Apple, like the team at Apple, they are like over there for like a long period of time. And to design one iPhone, you don't need like too many designers, right? The bar is really high to be at Apple or on those companies, right? Because you have like, I don't know, 1,000 apps on your cell phone right now. So people to design those apps like this UX UI area is much easier than someone that needs to design the physical product, right? You know, like from one year to other year, it's not that difference. You don't need that much of industrial design work, right? So I saw that it's super competitive, and um, the rhythm, the time, it needs to be much faster, right? Because also I think it's because the salary in California because it's good in comparison with other states and even with the Europe, the salary here is much higher. So even people from all over the world try to come to California to work for those companies. I remember when I was school, I was still like in school. I was applying for an internship because you need to have like an internship during school, and I applied for this internship at Logitech. And for an intern position, it was like 10,000 people, 1,000
Hmm.
applications for one position. So it's really competitive. And I still keep the contacts with people in the industry and people that I worked with. And it's really hard to be like in a position in one of those hot companies, you know?
One of the things that I know we've talked about this before that I found really interesting is that when you were living in a with a group of people in that type of environment, of relationships and what you see other people building and how they work on projects and what talk about that experience and what it's like being with a group of people, a group of creatives that are all trying to build their careers and their businesses in that arena.
Yeah, I feel like in the Bay Area there is this thing of, oh, I wanna build something great, right? You have the hassle of like, no, let's work hard in building something to save the world and things like that. So I feel like each one in different areas, those people they had this driving. I didn't had this type of connections in Brazil. I had some people, like some of the entrepreneurs that I used to work, that had this driving. But when I came to the Silicon Valley and I used to live like with 10 guys in this house, like the show, um, the Silicon Valley show. And then it was funny because you have like all those people from different parts of the world, super smart people trying to build things. It was really fun, really nice to be exposed to this type of environment and driven people, super smart people. One of the guys that used to live in the house, he learned how to speak Japanese fluently, like just playing games, those type of things. And then we were in the beginning of the quarantine, and then he was like doing exercise every day with games, like doing like squats. It's like the type of uh, Silicon Valley type of thing, right? So it was really fun. And
Was
one of my buddies that I used to live with, he's getting married in June, and probably all the guys from this house they're gonna come together in San Diego.
great. Was it hard to get accustomed to? Because again, you're coming into a new culture. Even though you say you like it now, like how long did it take you to really find your comfort with that environment?
I think it's not like in the beginning you have like a little shock, like of like needs to be fast, needs to be, but I feel like it was not that different. I always thought that could be really different in terms of the culture, the food. A lot of people complain about food, and I feel like here you have much more options in terms of food. And it's especially in the Bay Area, it's really like diverse. We had like people from probably like 5 different countries in our house, and that was really different for me, but it worked really well. It's really nice to learn from other cultures and other customs, and it was really really fun.
I want to jump into your design skills, and I've seen the work that you've done firsthand, for multiple different companies and organizations. Talk to me a little bit about the evolution of how you develop the skill. Not only I know Apple's a big influence on what you do. I know with your experience with Google, but from you being able to draw and then you being able to also work with your hands and actually build things. Tell me about like how what is the evolution of everything that you do, because I know some people can work well and draw and have these ideas and be able to write them down, but to bring them to life in all the different ways that you do, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you, Dustin. So, in terms of sketching, people think, oh, you need to be born with this talent. But I met a lot of people that when they started school, they were not that great. And just exercising every day for a couple of hours, you can see like a gigantic, enormous. And sketching for us is not like to be pretty. It's great to see a pretty sketch, but in the day life, you don't do those pretty sketches. You do more like to communicate. Sketching is communication and also thinking. When you're sketching and you're thinking kind of how these two parts they connect or they separate. So I need to do this sketch for myself, but also for someone that works with me that's gonna bring to a CAD, like a software, to bring this to a more three-dimensional way, right? So sketching is just exercise. It's how many times you do. Like sometimes when I'm gonna sketch, I need to do like some kind of exercises to just to make your arm like it's like you're playing a game. You need to exercise a little bit before, right? So you do like bunch of lines, circles, and ellipses.
It's like jogging or stretching before you actually do the game or play the game.
Yeah, exactly. And then CADing is like those softwares that we develop the 3D device in a more like a way that you can send for manufacturing. That's also a lot of testing and training and exercising. They say you can only master after 10,000 hours, right? And I think this is really what happens in CAD because you need to know like how to bring this from the paper to the computer, and then like right now you have the 3D printers, right, that you can 3D print this file that you have in your CAD file and then bring to life. So I think those are the three main areas that you need to exercise a lot when you're studying, right? And also, but any person can do, right? We have a lot of tools right now that you don't even need to be a designer to create something and communicate with the world what you want to develop, right?
Tell me about some of those tools that you use. Like, what have you found to be effective? Because again, this show is tools, talents, and techniques, and I love when people talk about like, hey, this is what I use for this. Is there anything that really helps you or that you found to be most effective in putting these ideas to life?
So one of the things that any person can use and it's prototyping. So sometimes you don't know how to sketch, or you can sketch something like just a little really rough sketches. But if you can get like, I don't know, if it's something more flat, you can have like a cardboard and then you can fold and things like that. So instead of to have like a image that you have on the paper, you can carve like even paper, right? Sometimes if you, oh, I want to design something that is like a V shape. So instead of sketching something, you can do like prototypes really fast. And with a prototype, like a ugly, dirty, simple prototype, you can get something really fast to show someone else. So that's what I'm thinking. So I think prototyping with any materials, cardboard, foam, or clay, things like that, it's really helpful to communicate your idea. And those CADs, those softwares like CAD, they are like much more complex. And there are like CADs like softwares like Fusion 360. They are more like open source, so you can also get like some 3D files already. Uh, we use at Tip Studio SolidWorks, which is a little bit more it's a little bit more complex, but it's the most common in the field, like between manufacturing and design. That's the one that is the most common in between.
So you worked on a lot of different products during your career. I know you work a lot in the golf industry and golf devices, but also other CPG. Tell me about the range of products that you've developed and any ones that you want to speak specifically on, fantastic. But it's so cool to me to see, like, I saw you worked on some razors and you worked on like golf carts and you've worked on, some other companies like Blue Tees. Like talk about the range of products that you get exposed to.
Yeah, so I still have like I had a mentor in the beginning of my career that he used to say that a designer can do like from a toothpick to an airplane. You can design anything between. Like the main part of the design that I that sometimes you don't have so much time, but when you have the time to do your research and empathize with the problem, you just need to understand the person who's going to use this device, no matter what it is. And then if you're gonna design a bottle of water, you should do your research to understand this bottle of water and pick the good ones, read reviews, and really empathize with the person that is using this device, no matter what it is. So we worked a lot in the US specifically with golf products. It's not something that I used to design, but just understanding what the user wants, what the user feels when they're using like a rangefinder, and what this user likes or desires in a product. That's all the information you need. And then we have like our methodology where we brainstorm in different directions and different solutions for the problem that the company is trying to solve with this new device, right? Right now we are working a lot in healthcare, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. It's not just to have fun in the product. It's great to have fun with the product, but healthcare is something that you can help someone somehow with your work. That is something that we are really diving to this year, and something really, really fun, and also good for us, right? For our spirits to work with something that you can help someone, right?
You know what? I think that's a great point. I remember almost 10 years ago, a family member of mine was going through a battle with cancer. And yeah, I've spent plenty of times in hospital rooms and, checkups and those things and other injuries and being in the ER. Like I spend enough time more than I'd like to admit. But when a family member was in the cancer center, I was blown away by the aesthetic of the room, because you're in such a difficult time. And it was like this one center was like, I was like, this is different than any hospital room that I've ever been in. Like the artwork was so soft, so nice. I just felt like the equipment, like it felt like a nice, comfortable, safe space. And I'm like, why don't all hospital rooms look like this? Or, why don't all doctors' offices look like this? So that's great that especially it's not something I think about a lot, but the fact that you're working on that and really helping to bring that to the healthcare space, I think that is key because when people are dealing with their health and especially really hard things, it's so important to be in a place that you feel comfortable and safe.
Yeah, and those are type of things that you when you work for healthcare, like the person is already stressed, right? To go to this machine or doing some kind of evaluation and treatment. So you have like colors, patterns, things that make you feel like more comfortable and ease, right? So sometimes it's a white color, a gray color. It's how you touching this device and you feel like warm, not cold. So those things you need to understand when you're designing specific for this area, right? So those informations, those features, you can need to understand doing your research, right? When you're trying to create this new device, you need to understand how the person's going to feel over there and how can you make their life better, right? When they're interacting with the products and just feel in ease as much as you can. So we are working with a couple companies and then you can see like the colors, they repeat, but it's already because we as humans we not that hard to understand the psychology of the colors and how you feel like when you're touching something. It's something that we know for like how many years, right? So yeah, you just need to understand a little bit of more of people and how to make their life better. That's the goal.
As a designer and a creative, how often is it on your mind when you walk into a space or pick up a piece of silverware? Like how much do you think like, oh, this could be better? Is it just something that you constantly do when you walk around?
Yeah, I think so. It's all the time. All the time. You're constantly thinking, but also appreciating good solutions, you know? Like sometimes like you see a problem and like a Tesla, for example. Some people don't like Teslas, but how they fixed problems. Like, let me give you an example. So when the Tesla is on the lighting and then it's red and becomes green, it gives you a little sign, just this little sign that is like not annoying, just gonna make you okay, it's green. And then remember when you like you had this thing like okay, if it's green, people start to honk at you, screaming at you. They solve this problem with just a little sound. That blows my mind how nobody thought about this. I don't even know I if other cars they do this, but I was driving another day a Tesla and then I saw this and I was like, great solution for a
Yeah, I
problem.
I know my car doesn't do that. I still rely on the people honking and yelling at me from
Yeah.
behind. So I know
You
that.
know, and just simple solution, right? So yeah, I really appreciate the solutions from other designers and other.
So you've given two great examples. You've talked about Apple and their design. You've talked about Tesla and their design and their innovation. Is there any other places that may be unexpected where you take inspiration? Like, uh, I don't know, going back to silverware, I know some people that like knives, like there's certain Japanese cutlery and knives that people really appreciate. Is there anything else that you see outside of? the norm that might be surprising?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think every day we interact with products, right? And like they say, if you see a product and you really, if you, when you're using, you really feel like there is something wrong, that's when a product doesn't have a good design, right? So, like, you can see the problem and then you realize, damn, really don't like this product, you know? So, when a product is well designed, the idea is that it disappears. You just live with it without any type of uh, interruption or problem or feeling insecure. So our our goal is always to design something that solves like your your problem, right? In a way that kind of disappeared. So I don't know if I can give you another example. Yeah, easy example. So we were designing watches for Bluetooth, and one of my friends he was playing with the Apple Watch. And on the Apple Watch, you have a button on the right side. And when you're playing golf, you need to do this movement, right, with your wrist.
When you flex your wrist, yeah.
Yeah. So because of this button on the right side, sometimes you would press like accidentally, right? And I never thought about this because like when you're with your right hand, you press with your index finger on the button, so it makes sense. But for the specifically use of golfing, it's a problem. You realize this button should be on the left side, right? So when you're bending your wrist, you're not gonna press. So that's what we did with the watch we designed for Bluetooth. We just brought the button to the other side and solved this problem.
So I want to talk more about the blue tees because I know that you've won awards for some of the design work that you've done with them. But before we get there, I want to talk more about inspiration and nature. How much inspiration do you get from nature, if at all? I don't think that's something we ever talked about, but I know you do like doing things outdoors. I know you surf and you do things like. Do you get a lot of inspiration from nature?
Yeah, I think the nature is really well designed, and there are so many examples of things that you see in real life that were inspired by nature. And but depends of the area that we're gonna work with. Like we were designing something for clients that was really inspired in pebbles, in rocks. So our first inspiration was to go to the beach and find rocks that could feel like just to see like how the geometry and the textures, and it was really helpful like for this case in specific. But there are a lot of ways that you can see in the nature, like the aerodynamics. If you're designing something really that needs some aerodynamics, that's a hard word for me. Yeah, I think colors, combinations, and ergonomics. It's really well designed. God did a really good job. Good is a great designer. God's a great designer.
That reminds me there, and maybe this is not exactly parallels, but there was, there's a beach area in La Jolla called Bird Rock, and I'm sure you've been there. When we were staying there one time, we were staying near the beach, and just the sound of the waves hitting the pebbles because there's a bunch of smaller rocks down there, and the waves coming in and out and hitting the pebbles, and it was such a textured sound. It had a feel to it, and you could hear it. And I remember thinking like, I don't know if I've ever fully appreciated or heard that sound before for that extent of time, but it was one of those things like it was so soothing, it was so nice. I mean, I don't if I were more of an art or something, I was like, there's something I'm taking from this and I don't know what it is, but this is amazing. And I think about that a lot, like in nature and when things just feel right. And you just reminded me of that when you talk about the feel and the aesthetics of things. Let's go to your work with Blue Tea. So again, congratulations. I know you've done a lot of great work with them. Tell me about like how you originally got into working in the golf industry or golf products.
So one of my mentors here in San Diego, he had a company that I worked with him, and then when I left to work with Google, he helped me to uh, like I was doing already when I was working with Google, doing some freelance job in the side, and it was in golf, and like one of the hard parts when you're trying to build a company, especially in design that is really specific, you relying in referrals, right? So like in his area, it's really specific for golf, and he knows a lot of people in golf industry. Referrals, still it is like probably more than 50% of our clients are through referrals. So because of him and who he introduced me, we were like kind of really deep in the golf industry. And then was something that it was not familiar with golf was I never play golf, but the products like specific like consumer electronics like speakers and range finders, I saw a really good opportunity in the field, like because some of the products were not well designed and really well thought. Like I can think in a company that they used to like their main focus was the binoculars, and then they tried to bring to the golf, but some of the geometry, the ergonomics was not really dialed to the golf. So I feel like was a area that had a lot of potential, and yeah, and was fun to start working in this area. And then like usually you start with a company with one product, and then if does well they try to get more products, and then when you have a bigger more long-term relationship with the clients, you understand the brand language and how they interact with the public and how they want to see themselves. So when you have those long-term relationships, it's much easier for us, for me and myself and my team, to design something for you, right?
Yeah. So, and now that I know you, let's use surfing for example. You know, and there's not a lot of equipment in surfing, but is that something that you would like to do more design work for? Is it something that you're seeing your passions and your talents and your work leaning toward? Like where do you see all of this going? Are there certain areas besides healthcare that you're like, I would like to do more work in this vertical?
Yeah, I feel like surfing it's an area that there are not a lot of devices that you can develop, and we are really focusing devices and consumer electronics and things like that. And I still feel like surfing is still like people want it to be more classic, more less devices in the water. That's the time that you're just trying to be like with the wave, just
Mhm.
meditate, be in the water and look to the ocean and think in your life. So I feel like this clutter of devices when you're in the water, you don't have to use those, right? You have no notifications, nothing at all. You're just there by yourself. But outside of the water, when you're going to surf, when you come back, then I feel like there is opportunity over there. And because I've been surfing for more than 20 years, believe it or not, I can see the problems and those solutions. When you really know the problem, you are expert in this problem. And then we have our team at Deep that can design those things. So right now we are really focusing in designing accessories for surfing. So like trying to make this transition by like the sand to the water something more seamlessly. Yeah, and I know a lot of people in the industry, so I feel like it's good for it. It's much easier to market the products when you know the industry, you know the people, and you know the products. So, like I said in the beginning, a big part of our methodology is really to understand the problem. That happens with any person that wants to design something, right? Sometimes it's a problem that you encounter every day, and then some people just want to live with this problem. There are other type of people that want to solve this problem, right? I think that's the spirit of an entrepreneur, right? Try to solve problems, no matter where they are, and then if you really know the problem, it's much easier for you to solve.
And speaking of entrepreneurship, you working for other companies and working for some big companies and then, working with small companies and, being an entrepreneur and building your own business. What are some of the lessons that you've learned or things challenges that you've had to overcome in building your business?
I think, like I said, referrals are a big part of the business. And in the beginning, because I didn't know that many people, especially in the US, that was the biggest challenge. And when you're a new company, you need to prove yourself. But also, like a company doesn't, I can't do exactly what I do and just wait for people come to us to do this. So I had to learn all the other areas in the business. So how to market, right? Because the first year and second year, you still rely in referrals. But after that, if you want to grow, if you want to build a bigger team, you need to get more leads coming in. So I had to learn a lot about marketing. I had to learn a lot about bookkeeping and all those areas. And I feel like when you build a business, you don't have to do all of that, but you just need to understand how they are. And marketing is something that I feel like is really fun, and I learned a lot in the past couple of years. And that's what I really makes me like being excited about the business is learning something every day, right? And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hassle and working hard and long hours, but it's when you're building something that you like, you love, and you're helping other people, it's really exciting.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight. You know, the learning process and doing it. But when you, like you said, when you love it, when you're learning and you're growing, and you know, you surprise yourself. And then sometimes when you look back and realize when it doesn't feel that you've gone that far, but you look back and you're like, wow, actually, we just did a lot. It's kind of crazy. So that's I think that's always a good part of it.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I want to add. The thing that like people say, oh, you need to fail, right? When you're building a company, when you're working hard. And one of the things that I realized in the last years, it's using a planner. I'm the one of the users of the planners. It's like when you review your week, you can see what was what were the fails of the week. What are the things that you could improve for the next week? So it doesn't matter if you just fail and you don't realize what was the fail to solve for the next week, right? So I think a big part of what we do is to review our week on Sundays and organize our next week. So we can also review our wins because sometimes when we are just working and passing the days, if you don't review and realize what you did and what you accomplished, sometimes just pass by and you just feel like, oh, I didn't do anything over the week. So I think review your daily wins every day is something that we're doing. Like review at least 2 or 3 big wins of the day and being grateful for those wins, right? I think those are ways that you can always be improving and learning and being a better person, better entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love this, and this goes into the techniques portion of I guess the title of
Yeah.
the show. This is perfect. So let's talk about that because I'm a big fan of writing it down. Like if you have an idea and you don't write it down, it's you know the chances of it actually becoming a reality are you know slim to none. What's your daily practice? Do you wake up and journal, or do you wake up and meditate? Do you wake up and surf? Like what is your daily process on how you approach life?
Yeah, so I try to organize well, something that it really helped me with all the tasks of the company is like review my days, my weeks on a Sunday and prepare for the next week. But also during the week, what I do is I finish my day. At the end of the day, I review everything we did in the day. I try to be grateful for the wins, and then I organize my next day. So my next day, I already know what's the first thing I need to do, right? So the first, the second, the third thing. I try to organize at least 3 big tasks every day. So if I accomplish those 3 tasks, I'm happy for the day. I know we have much more than big tasks, but I try to organize at least 3 big tasks. And then in the day, I think the first things I do is like meditating first thing in the morning. I like to do a little cardio, like 20 minutes in a bike. And then when I'm having the breakfast, I also try to just take a look on my planner that is already organized for this day. And then I already know when I'm ready, I just go deep and really focus.
When did you start to figure out that you needed a process? Is this something that you've been doing for, 10, 20 years? Is this something that you started doing recently?
Yeah, it's really recently because when I start the company and it start to grow, I feel like overwhelmed and anxious about all the things that I had. And then I was thinking that I need something. I need something to organize better my week and be more like I don't know, just less anxious. And then this person, it came from nowhere, and oh, I want to design a planner. And then I was like, okay, what is a planner, right? I need to buy and test how it works. And then I started to use, and I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I need. And then we're at the end process of the designing this planner. It's a little bit different from a regular planner. It has a little details and features I can't share much about. Because of this project, I had to see, like, I had to experiment, right, to see how can we design better this device. And that was the change my life with this planner because of these clients that came to us.
That's amazing. You never know. And it's funny. I mean, maybe not that specific thing that changed your life, but the pen and the paper, the thing that's been in your hand the whole time, since an early age was the key to opening up your life. The irony's not lost on me there. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like there's something more about than just having on your phone. I think like really writing and thinking. And I posted another day on LinkedIn, and one of our partners, she said that she goes even deeper. She puts like a song when she's planning her week. She puts some candles. Like it's a really self-care exercise for her, like to plan her week and see, like really think what do you want to accomplish, what is your goals, because we know like if you don't have like the goals, uh, you're gonna just be drifting in life, right? If you don't have like bigger goals. That is something that I felt like in my early 20s. I was not really sure about what I wanted, and like when you realize what you want and you're really specific about what you want, it's much easier to accomplish, right?
Yeah. And you never know where that will take you because even when you're specific and you go towards that, you never know what else is going to appear on that path of going towards your goal. So that's amazing. So listen, before we take off, like where I'm going to share everything in the show notes, your website, your Instagram, all those things, your LinkedIn. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we take off?
No, I think that's it. If you guys want to take a look at our website, I'm being more active on LinkedIn. So you guys can send me a message if you guys have any questions. I have a lot of people that come to me, like students that want to know, even before going to school, they want to know what we do, anything that I can help to pick industrial design, or if one of your listeners they want to know a little bit more about it, you can access our website or get in touch. We also have a newsletter that we share every week some of our challenges, some of our mistakes. So yeah.
Yeah, I get it every week, so it's great. It's great. So I'll share all those notes there. But again, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. It's always great talking to you and spending time with you. So thank you again for everything.
Thanks so much, sir. Let's keep in touch.